Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Coordinator of Officials with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is football officiating training tape number 7, our last one for the 2020 season. Thanks to all of you for your efforts this year. Again, it's been a really unusual and challenging year, and you've risen to the challenge, and I appreciate all of you for your really hard work on behalf of the student athletes of Minnesota. So thanks again for all of your efforts. Stay safe and healthy, and we look forward to having you back in 2021. We're going to take a look at a few plays just to wrap up the year. Again, not picking on any one crew, official, or team, just trying to learn from these plays, and hopefully they will help you as we get going with the section tournaments and finish strong, have great games, and we will see you soon. Okay, let's use this play to talk about goal line mechanics and how we handle our coverages and positioning. So, snapping from the 5, so line of scrimmage officials going right to the pylon, work at a little bit of an angle so that we have some depth at the pylon, but then right away we have a tough catch, no catch in the deep corner of the end zone between the back judge and the linesman. So, linesman, I like how you move to the goal line at the snap. Then as the pass is threatening the back half of the end zone, which we talked about on a previous tape, we can slide down parallel to that sideline and then get stationary to view the catch, no catch, and then you can close towards the receiver to indicate a touchdown or an incomplete pass. So try to get stationary at the time of the catch, then you can move closer and gain ground, because by the time people see you, they'll assume you were right on top of it all along, even though you were a little bit further away. So I like that we move to the goal line. I like that we move down the sideline parallel with the sideline towards the receiver because it's threatening the back half of the end zone. The other thing I would say is let's pick up the back judge. They might have some information to share, such as a foot touching the end line, a bobble, some other information. They may have a foul, anything like that. Just make sure we pick them up visually, and then you can confirm. And if the back judge doesn't have any other information, then we can go up with it or call it incomplete or whatever your decision happens to be. So mechanically, very, very nice. Going to the goal line, pivoting, moving down the sideline, getting into position to view this catch, no catch, and then we come up with a nice call. So just a couple things just to tighten up a little bit. Try to be stationary at the time of the catch, and then the second thing is pick up your back judge in case they have some information to share with you. But overall, nice coverage and mechanics by the linesman on this play. On this one, I want to talk about mechanics and our vision and where we're looking on plays like this one. So first, let's take a look at the action of the left guard. You'll see it here on the TV replay. Left guard kind of hooks the guy around both shoulders and then spins him and takes him down. And this would be enough for offensive holding and one that we would want called. So let's talk about our vision, our mechanics. This year with the umpire in the offensive backfield, this is still going to be the umpire's key responsibility, being center, guard, tackle on their side of the formation. Last year it would have been guard, center, guard, and they still would need to pick up this action. So they would be the primary. However, the way that this play develops, I believe that referee could get to this block potentially because the quarterback is not a threat to be fouled. He's in a pitch type motion going away from the referee, so we should be bumping down, transitioning in our blocks and our vision. So we should be going from the right tackle, clear the right guard, center, and then over. And if we're moving in that transition, we might be able to pick this block up, but this is umpire's initial responsibility, and when we see those two hooks around the shoulders, that's kind of a giveaway, a red flag that we need to keep an eye on that action and see it all the way. And then when they turn and spin them and tackle them, we need to have offensive holding. That's big enough. And offensive holding is a pretty punitive penalty in high school football because of its spot foul nature. And they could end up with 2nd and 35, and that's a really difficult amount of yardage for high school players or college players for that matter to come back from. So we need to make sure that our offensive holding calls are really solid and there's a material restriction, there's an effect on the player being blocked, and we can put it into one of those categories that we talked about earlier: hook and restrict, grab and restrict, takedown, tackle. And I think this fits a couple categories. So this is enough for offensive holding, one that we would want called, and then we would want to make sure that our umpire has primary vision on this. Don't get caught looking at the pitch play. Let's get to blocks. We don't need to look at the pitch. That primary coverage is going to be coming from line of scrimmage, who are looking at forward, backward, and they should punch. Remember, primary on that coming from the opposite wing, but we certainly could have a ruling on that from the near side wing. So make sure we're looking at blocks and we have our vision at the appropriate spot, and then transition as the play develops, bumping down accordingly. So I want to use this play, 1st and 10 here, to talk about ineligibles downfield and our coverage, and just talk philosophy again. We've talked about this before. Ineligible downfield is one of the most incorrectly called fouls at all levels of football, and it's because we get tricked by where the linemen are or the ineligibles are at the time the ball is touched versus when the pass is released by the passer. In this case, you'll see we have a quick pass out to the flat. Pretty unlikely to have an ineligibles downfield in a play like this, but you see the linemen in the middle of the screen. They're right at 2 yards. They're just fine, and we don't call it on this play, which is correct, and that's not what we want. But it's just something to remind ourselves of with ineligibles downfield, or any foul for that matter. It's a 2-step process. Let's see, is it point of attack? Does it have a material effect on the play? Does it need to be called? Time and score, philosophy, building all those pieces in. So in this case, you see that by the time the pass is touched, those 2 linemen are really far downfield, but not a foul because they were within the limit of 2 yards at the time the pass was released. So just make sure we don't get fooled. 2-step process. See the lineman at 3 yards or more. If we turn and look and the ball's still in the quarterback's hands, foul. Okay, so remember, they can be 2 yards. If they're more than that, we need to turn and see the quarterback with the ball still, and then we can have a flag down for ineligible downfield. So we don't here, and that's excellent. Second thing I want to point out on this play, and it's hard to tell because sometimes the TV and clock aren't really synced the way they should be, but you'll notice that the clock continues to run on this play after the receiver goes out of bounds, and it shouldn't run again until the snap. And I don't know if it does for sure on this play, but just something to be aware of. Everyone on the crew should have clock awareness, should see the clock. Anytime we have a stop the clock signal, somebody's got to get their eyes on the clock, because if we lose 20 seconds like we potentially did here, that's just really an unexcusable lapse, from the crew. We need to be on top of the clock, because if something happens with the clock, they're not yelling at the clock operator, they're yelling at us, and rightfully so. We should be on top of that. Again, not saying it happened here, hard to see if TV just had to catch up, but just make sure as a crew we're on top of clock awareness on every play, every down, the whole game. Okay, let's talk about scrimmage kick mechanics. Talk about our positioning, our transitions, and where we're looking. Haven't had a lot of these on these tapes this year, but unusual one here: muff, scramble, and recovery by K. Good sell by the back judge. I like that about this play. We don't get to sell our calls all that often, and so when we have a chance to do it, it's fun to do. And I do like that about this play. But let's take a look from the beginning at our initial positioning. Referee is wide. I like that. We're about a step or two deep of the kicker, which is good. Same with the umpire. That's where we should be. Line of scrimmage, we're 1 yard off the sideline into the white. Back judge, let's talk about our initial positioning. I think we're a little too far towards the chain sideline. I think we can be a little bit more out into the field of play. Not a ton, because the receiver is right on that hash or by the numbers there. So we can move out a little bit. So if we're looking over, basically looking over the shoulder of the return man at the blocks coming up the field, that first wave, we can assist with blocks, because we really don't need to stare at the return man on a play like this. But we can get out to that first wave of blocks and then get to the receiver when the ball gets to him. That way we have an idea about kick catch interference and blocked into and those kinds of things, and we'll at least be able to offer some feedback of what we saw in regards to that. Because you see there is a block there by the receiving team player, number 33 it looks like, right near the return man, and we would need to be able to pick that up as back judges. So I think if we're another step or two, maybe three into the field of play, and we're stationary as the ball is coming to the receiver, I think we'll have a pretty good idea of what's going on around him and whether we have kick catch interference, a touch, those kinds of things. So I like the hustle and coverage at the end, but I think if we're maybe a step or two into the field of play, stationary, view the receiver and the action around him, I think we'll have a pretty good shape, or we'll be in pretty good shape to rule on blocks, touching, those kinds of things. The other reason I say this is I think that we take ourselves out of position by moving up towards the receiver. We're moving forward at the time the ball is touched, and I think it potentially takes us out of position to view the action after the ball is muffed. So I think if we're stationary a couple steps out, we might be able to come more at an angle and view the action as they are trying to recover the ball, in case there's a personal foul or some other action that if we're too far up, we won't be able to pick that up. And remember, we're not going to have a beanbag on this play because it's touched by R. If we have a touching by K, then we would have a beanbag in that case. But in this situation, it's touched by R, no beanbag, and we don't have possession or control by the return man, so therefore we wouldn't have a beanbag for a fumble either. So as a result, we can't have an advance on a muff, a recovered muff by K. So if K recovers it, it's going to be dead at the spot of recovery. In this case, he's laying on the ground, so no problem. But if he were to pick it up on the run, remember that we would be killing the play at that time. So I like the hustle. I like the sell. That part all looks great. I just think come out onto the field a little bit more, and I think by moving forward, I think it potentially takes us out of position to view action, after the muff. But remembering that we do have assistance and help from the line judge at the bottom of the screen. But let's not rely on that. Let's make sure that we're in sound position and use really solid mechanics, so that if there's anything that we need to get as back judges, we can certainly do that by being in good initial position to begin with. So just review our scrimmage kick mechanics, positioning, and where we would go if something goes wrong. Because remember, if something's going to go wrong on a play, it's going to go wrong on a special teams play, as it does here. And we just need to be prepared for anything. Always be prepared for muffs, onside kicks, trick plays. Just have our antennas up for everything. And I think we cover this well, get it correct in the end, but just a couple little mechanical things just to clean up. Okay, scrimmage kick here. Let's talk about mechanics, our coverage, and then talk about rules regarding blindside block. So, back judges, remember we want to be a little bit deeper than the receiver, about a handful of yards or so, uh, looking over the shoulder of that return player so that we can see blocks, see that second wave, and then and we're stationary at the time of the catch, and once the receiver makes the catch and starts moving upfield, we're going to release that return man to either the linesman or the line judge for progress. And you'll see the block here in the middle of the screen. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But just from a coverage standpoint, we need to pick up this block, be a little bit deeper. We do pick this up, and we do have a flag here for blindside block. And umpire does also, but umpire, we're down way too far on this play. We don't need to come down that far. Keep players in front of you. If we've come down this far, there's going to be players behind us. So we shouldn't be down this far. Umpires, we should only be about maybe the 25 tops. That way we can get back to the goal line and keep players and blocks in front of us. So make sure we evaluate our position there. And then linesmen, you don't have to come down very far either, probably 10, 15 yards tops, and then pick up blocks. And you probably should be able to see this block as well. So just work on our coverage and our positioning, for scrimmage kicks on where we should be. Remember that the line judge is releasing at the snap, or the person who's in the line judge position, should pick up those backside blocks as the line judge, because the back judge is going to have blocks and the receiver for kick, catch, interference, etc. in their 2/3 of the field, and line judge is going to have their 1/3. So make sure that we have backside blocks picked up. As it relates to the blindside block that you see here in these replays that the crew has as a foul for blindside block, let's talk about the rules and what we should be looking for when it comes to blindside block. So first, in Rule 2.3.10 says a blindside block is a block against an opponent other than the runner who does not see the blocker approaching. So I think in this case, this particular block against number 76 of the kicking team fits that definition. Second piece, we're going to go to Rule 9. Rule 9.4.3N says that a player shall not execute a blindside block outside of the free blocking zone with forceful contact unless initiated with open hands. So, let's take a look at it from that aspect. Is it outside the free blocking zone? Yes. Is it forceful contact? Yes. So now we need to decide, is it initiated with open hands? And I think you can get a really good frame of reference for that by going back to Rule 2 and looking at Rule 2.3 and looking at blocking and the open hand technique. And when you're looking at open hand technique, I think this really gives you a good frame of reference of what we're looking for. And it's number 5 under B. It says open hands are open when the palms are facing the frame of the opponent or when the forearms are extended beyond the 45-degree angle from the body. So I think that gives you a pretty good idea of what initiating contact with the hands looks like. So when you make contact with the shoulder and then follow through with the hands, that's not initiating contact with open hands. That's initiating contact with force, in the blind side. Player can't defend themselves. Forceful contact, not initiated with open hands. This is enough for a foul for blindside block and was properly called by the officials on the field. And when we're talking about not being able to defend themselves, doesn't see the block coming, it is not enough for the player who's being blocked to merely turn and see their life flash before their eyes and then they get hit. That's not enough. They need to actually have time to react, to change course, to duck, to swerve, some kind of movement that indicates that they saw the block coming and they had a chance to try to defend themselves. So that's what we're looking for. That does not happen on this play. We have a forceful block initiated from the blind side, not initiated with open hands, enough for a blindside block, properly called by the crew, and mechanically it was seen by umpire and back judge. And I think that's really good vision by the crew to pick up this block, and it is a safety foul, so that's good to get. Okay, more scrimmage kick formation fun for the same crew. Lucky them. On this play, we have a fake punt, fake scrimmage kick that they ultimately run for a first down. So let's talk about a couple rules that pertain to this kind of play and just what we need to be aware of when it comes to these kinds of things. Mechanically, I think we handle this play very well. I like how we maintain the line of scrimmage as the linesmen. We come down, get a very nice spot. Might need some help on crossfield mechanics, which might be tough because the line judge is releasing at the snap. But if we read run or read fake on this, line judges, let's just stop where we're at and officiate from there. But a couple things to be aware of. First, scrimmage kick formation. If they want to have numbering exceptions on a play like this, they need to be in scrimmage kick formation, and that's under Rule 7.2, that's 725B, exception 2, on fourth down or during a kick try, when A sets or shifts into a scrimmage kick formation. So in this case, they set right away, but they certainly could shift to scrimmage kick formation. Any A player numbered 1 to 49 or 80 to 99 may take the position of any A player numbered 50 through 79. A player in the game under this exception must assume an initial position on his line of scrimmage between the ends and remain ineligible throughout that down, unless the pass is touched by B. So in this case, if they have numbering exceptions in the game, they certainly can do that. They just need to remain ineligible throughout the down. So if they were to pass on this play, we would need to know who those players are. That's why we talk about on all scrimmage kicks, whether it's a fake or not, we need to know who our eligibles are, who the ineligibles are, so that if the play goes south or we have a fake or whatever it might be and they pass, we know who can't get it. In this case, it's a pure run, although it sure does seem like the pass is a potential option. So we need to know who they can't throw it to. And when we're talking about having this exception, these numbering exceptions, they have to be in scrimmage kick formation, which is Rule 214.2. A scrimmage kick formation is one in which no player is in position to receive a hand-to-hand snap from between the snapper's legs or at the snap, either we have one for a holder, like a field goal, extra point try, or B, a player is 10 yards or more behind the line of scrimmage and in position to receive the long snap. So you see based on the replay that the punter is 10 yards from the line of scrimmage, which meets the definition of free kick formation, a player 10 or more yards behind the line of scrimmage and in position to receive the long snap. So they can have numbering exceptions. I can't really tell the numbers on the screen, but it seems that they don't have numbering exceptions in the game. But if they did, it would be legal. We just need to know who can get it and who can't. And then from a coverage perspective, I like how the linesman maintained his spot. Line judges, let's stop and officiate. What's in front of us if we can read that it's a fake or a run or whatever it might be. And then back judge, you probably have to stay where you're at. Same with referee and umpire. You're just going to officiate how the play develops, officiate blocks out front, so that we pick this up. And we've talked about this other aspect before. If they're going to run fakes, trick plays, unusual type play formations and setup, they need to be by the book when it comes to the rule book. When it's a regular running play, a regular scrimmage down, and they run a typical running or pass play, we're going to be a little bit more lenient when it comes to formations. We're not going to nitpick on, illegal formation. If we can make them legal, we're going to make them legal. But when we're talking about trick plays and unusual and those kinds of things, we would like the referee to ask the coach if they have these kind of plays. Hopefully they tell you, but be prepared that they won't. And then if they do run unusual plays, again, they need to be by the book, by the rule book, to the letter when it comes to these kind of plays. And if not, then they're going to be subject to a foul. So in this case, they set up in scrimmage kick formation. They have no more than 4 in the backfield. They don't end up passing, so we don't have to worry about numbering formations. Blocking is all good, and we have an excellent spot by the linesman. So well handled by the crew mechanically, coverage-wise, and a nice play by Kay, or by the offensive team here. They do a nice job. They follow the rules, and they get a first down. And remember, we are going to start the clock on the snap here. We have a first down out of bounds, and we would have a typical 40-second play clock in this situation as well. So well done by the crew, good coverage, good rules knowledge, good patience, and being ready for anything. On this play, let's take a look at the action by the center. And we are going to have offensive holding picked up here, properly so. Well done here by the crew to pick this up. And it's at a critical time of the game. It's 2 minutes and 32 seconds to go in a one-score game. So obviously, we want to make sure that these are huge, obvious to everyone, before we call these. And if you take a look at the action here, the center hooks, restricts, and ultimately tackles the defensive player at the point of attack, doesn't have a chance to get to the quarterback. So even though this is going to be a spot foul, which takes them back a considerable amount of yards, and it's a pretty big penalty, it's there, and it's one that needs to be called. So well done by the crew to pick this up. So just mechanically, remember, umpires in the offensive backfield, we're going to be picking up left tackle, left guard, and center. And then we're going to officiate from backside to front side on a play like this where he rolls out to the referee's side. And if we do that, we should pick up this block right at the point of attack as we're transitioning from one block to the next. Once you clear a threat for foul, move on to the next block. And if we do that, if we transition block and get to that free defender at the quarterback, we should pick up this hook, restrict, and takedown. So again, remember, offensive holding, we need to have a block that is a hook and restrict, grab and restrict, takedown, tackle. So put it in the category. Is it at the point of attack? Does it have an effect on the play? And does it have a material effect or restriction on the player being blocked? And I think this block fits all of those categories. And we want to make sure that mechanically we are looking where we need to. So umpire for sure should see this. And referee, since it's right at the quarterback, it's probable that you would have a look at this as well. So I would support 2 flags down on this. And again, understand fully it's a big foul at a big time of the game, but it takes guts to be an official, and we have to make the tough calls and the right calls when we need them. And this is one of those times. This is offensive holding at a critical time of the game, and it's properly called by the crew. They put it in the categories, break it down, transition on their blocks like they're supposed to, and then they pick this up. So very well done by the crew here. So on this last clip of the year, I want to talk about measurement mechanics. Now, we haven't had many of those this year because we limited them to 4th down, but wanted to show this example for the future. So we have a really tight play, key spot on 4th down. The line judge comes all the way to players and stops and puts the ball at his feet, and then we stop the game for a measurement, and we should do a measurement in a situation like this. It's key. Everyone would like to know that the integrity of the game is upheld, and so even if we know that they made the line to gain, I think it's because if we started this series on a big line, which it looks like we did, and we know they made it, totally fine. Give them a measurement. It just shows that we're all on the up and up, and everyone is aware of what's going on. And so we see the umpire is holding, or the back judge rather, is holding the ball. Umpire pulls the chains, referee looking at it really tight, about as close as it gets, and then line judge you see on the screen comes in and moves players back, and that's excellent. And we give them a first down. Everyone knows that it made the line to gain. We put on that show for them. So umpire takes the chains on the outside of the ball. That way the ball is facing the press box and the TV cameras. Back judge holding the ball, line judge keeping players back and keeping them away from the measurement. And we have the linesman at that back hash as well. So really handled very well mechanically. Good show of game IQ, football IQ, understanding what the game needs, and we need a measurement here, so just give it to them. And we handle it really well. We keep everybody out of the screen, and this is the first down that decides the game. So outstanding job of mechanics, of game management, and football IQ by the crew by doing this measurement and doing it well. Okay, that will do it for the training tapes for this year. Hopefully they were helpful for you, gave you some plays and some situations to think about, both mechanically and philosophically, and how we would handle these if we had them in our game. And I know we weren't having the same kind of pre-games and travel with crew this year as we would like. So hopefully these were helpful for you as you could try to envision these plays and what you would do with them, and just foster that communication, that dialogue with crewmates and other officials. So really appreciate all of you and your efforts. Outstanding job this year in a really tough year. You've handled yourself incredibly well as I would expect, and you have the great appreciation from me, the league, our coordinator staff, and our member schools. So thanks to all of you for your great efforts and great work. Make sure you're out there on the recruiting trail. Get new officials. We need them. Tell them how much fun it is. And hopefully we're back at it next year with fans, full stadiums, and having a great time. Hopefully we have that opportunity. But until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and take care to all of you.